It's your weekly breakaway for fun conversations on pro cycling and so much more. Join us as we go beyond the slipstream. I'm Matt Harper, and together with my brother Justin, we'll do deep-ish dives on bike races, movies, bands, and all manner of shiny pop cultural objects. Oh, and did I mention bike races? We're kind of obsessed. Allez! Hello and welcome to Beyond the Slipstream. I'm Matt and this is my brother Justin, and today in our first two segments we'll take a close look at several of the European National Championship races from the women's and men's sides, including Italy, France, Spain, Belgium, and England. In segment 3, we're going to review the 2003 French animated feature film, The Triplets of Belleville, a delightful picture that is at least tangentially related to the event that is about to take over our lives for the next 3 weeks, the Tour de France. And no Beyond the Slipstream podcast would be complete without a national championship winning ride in the Broom Wagon. Allez! Please note this segment will contain spoilers. If you have not watched the finish of the races and wish to remain unspoiled, please jump ahead to segment 2. Defending Italian champion Elisa Longoborghini cut a classic figure over the past year in the famed Italian tricolore jersey that signified her national championship win in June of 2024. This year's circuit course suited her perfectly, and she was a big favorite for a defense of her title. In France, the positively on-fire FDJ Suez team had a couple of their less ubiquitous this season riders on the starting block, including last year's winner Juliette Labous, plus Evita Muzic and Marie Lenné. And in Spain, another 2025 En Fuego squad, Movistar, were represented by some of the B team members of their ranks, including Maria Benito and Sara Martin. It's often the case that national championship races are the province of second-tier racers or up-and-comers, but that doesn't mean the racing is lacking. Justin, for the women's side of the pro peloton, I'm guessing you'll want to begin in Italy, see?
See. It's a really good race. I honestly feel like both the men's and the women's side, the Italian race was my favorite of all of them. Obviously,
we're going women. We're going women first, though. Just remember,
right? That's where I was going. ELB obviously comes out with a win that was a little on the edge for a minute there because she had that weird bike change that I'm like pretty sure at this point now was like some sort of mechanical issue that kind of put her into a little bit of jeopardy, but there was also a crazy wreck. And then I don't know if you caught the little controversial thing that happened that wasn't either of those, where there was a rider that was struck by a jury car.
No, I did not hear about this.
So obviously, chapeau to ELB. She had a great race. Outside of that little hiccup, in the last, 5K or whatever it was when she had that bike change. She looks stoic as ever and just, poised to take the thing with ease. Obviously, we got a little bit of drama there. With the
I wouldn't characterize that bike change as like on a knife edge or anything like that. I mean, she was already like way out in front when that happened. I mean, it wasn't even panic stations. The thing that I took away from that bike change was, did you see what happened to the poor mechanic in the car that was going to swap out the bike for her?
No.
Like the car's coming to a stop, but he jumps out before the car has come to a stop. And so his foot hits the ground, that car's still rolling, and he flies forward, he bangs his head in the door, takes a tumble. But I give my man big props. He popped right up. He got her on the bike, and she was off and running. But I mean, yeah, this course with that, with that field, with no Demi Vollerings and Marlon Royces in against her. Like nobody's beating her. There's just no possible chance. So, I mean, like I said in the intro, not a huge surprise, but we love ELB, and she's just a class racer, and I love seeing her in that jersey. She just looks like she was just made for that jersey. So um, I I'm cool with it, even if it wasn't the greatest race. The crash you mentioned, are you talking about Victoria
Yes,
Guazzini that like almost flew over a wall?
dude. I was actually showing people that today at work. I mean, you want to talk about a knife's edge? Like,
Yeah, that's the knife's edge. She 2 feet
holy
higher, and she's
moly!
like over that wall, and God knows how far away that thing
I mean,
falls
it
away on the
certainly
side.
looked from. I mean, all you could really see, what I could see had to be 20, 30 feet from what you could see on the camera. If it wasn't if it wasn't further than that, like it was at least 20 or 30 feet. And that, like, the way she kind of went at that wall, if she had fallen any later, she'd have gone right over. Like, she
Yeah,
luckily fell just in time to, like, kind of tip under the edge of that wall.
yeah. Luckily, she fell just in time to like smash head first into a stone wall. I mean, that's the that's the equation you're doing when you're trying to evaluate a crash like that. You're like, oh well, thank God she didn't fly over the wall, but also damn, that woman slammed into that wall hard as hell. Like that was severely unpleasant, and yet could have been so much worse. Just ask Remco Evenepoel.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, that was crazy. I did really like that parkour. I liked I love that climb. It was just a beautiful little climb there at the end, and it felt very Italian, and it was it was a good race. Um,
So,
Speaking, go
so,
ahead.
oh, sorry. Go ahead. You still, are you on this race or are you about to jump to another
No,
one?
I was about to pivot to another
No, no,
one.
no, no. So real quick, let me talk about. So Letizia Paternosta
Hmm.
narrowly avoided a crash after being struck by a race jury car. The quote today was, or today at the Italian Championship, an organization car hit me from behind on a descent, causing a spoke and gear to break. Thank God I didn't fall. We try to bring competent people into the race because human lives are at risk, was her quote. Just goes back to that, like, that ongoing conversation that I feel like we continually have about, the organizers and safety. And it's like, I know that they're doing their best to try to prevent these things, but like a jury car hitting a racer on the course, like on a descent, like hard enough to damage the bike, like, come on, man, they got to do better. Like, they just have to do better.
Yeah, I don't know. You find yourself like having these thoughts, like maybe maybe it's a lot harder than we think it is. Like because there's been no shortage of just people in the press screaming at race officials, at race organizations, at the UCI, just because these things just keep happening, keep happening, keep happening. So it's not like these organizations want them to happen or are like, no big deal, price of doing business kind of thing, right? One would have to assume that, and so then the question becomes like, is it really just that difficult to put on one of these things? I mean, if you think about it, it's a pretty crazy undertaking, especially when you're talking about like stage racing, where this whole racing apparatus has to be lifted up and moved 150 kilometers down the road day after day after day. I mean, the number of working parts and stuff like that. I mean, contrast that with putting on a football game at a stadium. All the variables are exactly the same every single time. It's exactly the same. But with this cycling, there's 1,000 different variables that can come at you every day. And so maybe we're just like we have an unrealistic expectation of safety. Maybe back in the past, like nobody even blinked about it, and we have. I don't know. I don't know where I'm going with this. What are your thoughts?
I mean, I'm sure that it's tougher than we, sitting on a couch, in the U.S. can say, but the reality is this: is you have people on bikes, all right, with basically no protection outside of their head, all right, and you're in a fucking car, like you like take it more fucking seriously, man. You're in a car going downhill. They're going at an extreme rate of speed, and we've seen how many times have we seen nasty crashes on descents? Excuse me. The
Think about
reality,
this.
the reality is that she's entirely right. There's human lives at risk. It's now, in my opinion, one of the most dangerous sports that you can do. I mean, like it really is, especially on these high
It's
mountains.
very dangerous. Okay, but think about this though, and, and perhaps this is a comment that I'm much more well equipped to make after having watched that documentary that I was talking about last week, about the Tour of Flanders. These people that are on these bike races, they are in these cars. These are basically like little sports cars. I mean, those cars are badass, because they got to be able to accelerate really quickly and handle really, really well. They're going on crazy ass roads and all over all kind of surfaces in these cars. They've got a rack of bikes on the top, and the guy driving this car, he's not just, or he or she, they're not just um driving from point A to point B. That is not what they're doing. Number one, they're part of the coaching squad of these teams. They are doing a very specific and intense kind of driving. You know what I mean? Where they got to be on their game the entire time. Mistakes are bound to happen. I mean, they, in a way, have to be as dialed into what's going on as the riders do. And
One hundred percent.
it really comes through in that documentary, because you're seeing them, they're trying to do all this communicating and remember where the riders are and keep all this information in their head. At the same time, they're navigating, and like there's this one part where one of the cars is, you're seeing the view from inside the car, and they're talking to the rider on the radio, and all of a sudden the rider says to them, I need you here right now. Like I got a flat or something like that. But they've had to divert off and like go around this one descent where the rider was going down, because the cars can't go that way. And so imagine all of that's going on, and you have to be driving this machine. Like it is, mistakes are just going to happen.
I have a feeling too that the guys that the DSs that are in the cars that are doing it, week in, week out, week in, week out, are probably a lot better at it than the people in the jury cars. You know what I mean? Because the people in the jury cars don't have a rack of bikes on their on top. You know what I'm
True.
saying? And I understand that they're there to be keeping an eye on the race, but it's like I don't know, man. It's you know I just don't see this. I don't see this as something that should be happening in this day and age. And again, I don't know. I'm not there, so you're right. I can. It's hard to speak on it, but
I'm just speculating. I don't necessarily know how I feel about it. I mean, I definitely think it's problematic that, you know, this stuff just keeps happening and keeps happening and keeps happening. Um, but I don't know. I mean, I guess it's an age old question
yeah,
in lots of different kinds of sports, that you're, these are not children that are participating, like the people, these are adults that understand the risks going into it. And one has to think that an accident like this was not caused by negligence per se, but by but by simple human error.
Yeah.
So,
All right,
anyways, this is
let's move on to France and Marie Lena. Lynette? Is it Lynette or Lena?
Linnae.
Lene.
Yeah.
Another win for FGJ Suez, and obviously they had a few riders in that group, and
Well, they went one. They went, the FDJ went 1-2-4 in that race.
look at that.
That team is just slaying. They had Labous, Evita Musik, and Marie Linnae. Linnae is the least known of those three riders, and yet she's the one that um, ends up on top. Um, I loved the way that she put in the attack. She was out in front with Julie Bago of Cofidis with like 18K to go. Um, One other rider bridged up to them. It was Lynette Linnae's teammate Leah Corinier. So now it's like a 2-on-1 for FDJ, and Linnae puts in a perfect attack on Bigo while she was like taking a drink, and nails it. And then in her post-race interview, she's just like weeping and just like an absolute mess. Corinier comes in halfway through the post-race, which I always like when the ride, when the winner's like in the middle of the thing and then their teammate like comes busting in. That's always funny. Um, and so the teammate Corinier is like standing there as she's being interviewed, and then she like as she's answering the interview question, she just turns to her teammate and she's like, "Merci pour tout," like thank you, like I'm so thankful for you. It was just like so
Well,
sweet.
for people like that, this is a huge win, and this is like something that she gets to carry with her all year long, and enjoy and be proud. I mean, that's one of the things that I do like about Championship Weekend is that like these riders get to get this. It's like it doesn't mean much in the grand scheme of the year, but it it means so much to you as a rider to be able to represent your country for the next 12 months.
Mhm.
And that's like,
Yeah.
that's so cool. Like, and it is something that's very unique about cycling, that you get that ability to be able to have that, to wear your country's colors on your back for a year, and then forever you get to have the bands on your sleeves.
Yeah.
And I just
Killer.
it's a really really awesome thing that happens in cycling.
Yeah, you're right. And I like that you point out that it's like in the grand scheme of like the year and like the teams and stuff like that. I mean, the UCI points of the thing or whatever, like it's not a giant like coup of UCI points or anything else. And at the end of the day, it's not like you're competing against like the cream of the crop. You're only competing against riders from your country. So like in the case of Italy, Eliza Borghini, like who else is gonna what other Italian woman's gonna beat her? I mean,
Yeah,
Maria Balsamo.
yeah.
Yeah, if it's flat enough, but not on a course like that, there's no way Balsamo's beating her on a course like that. And so like it's a foregone conclusion. So but it's the prestige, it's the honor of wearing that jersey. And frankly, having a national champions jersey, I heard some people commenting about the fact that it's like it's beneficial to you. It is a when it comes to like trades and transfers and stuff like that between teams, like having that national champions jersey, like some teams look at that and they're like, oh, if we pick up this rider right now that's like a national champion, like that's 6 months of the season that we're gonna be able to have with that national champions jersey on our squad. And that's always like a cool little piece of prestige for any team to have those national champions. And let's face it, I think it was like 2 years ago when I caught that photo of like the Lidl Trek team where like three of their six riders were in national champions jersey. You're talking about it's already the coolest kit in the peloton, and then you got this shot of like three different national champions on in one slipstream line. Uh, Amazing.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Let's move on to Spain. I really
Let's
don't know much.
let's save Spain and the rest of them for the team bus because we're
Okay.
like blowing through on time. So we'll
Yeah,
cap
we
it
can do
off
that.
there, and we're gonna talk Spain. I got some Belgium and I got some England to talk for the team bus.
Yep. Alrighty.
All
Sounds
right,
good.
all right. We'll be right back. Please note this segment will contain spoilers. If you have not watched the finish of the race and wish to remain unspoiled, please jump ahead to segment 3. In Italy in 2025, the national championship race on the women's side gave us a predictable kind of win from a very predictable winner. And while we always delight in the successes of Italy's top superstar, Eliza Longoborghini, stud that she is, we're also big fans of underdog stories and exciting bike races. And that's exactly what we got in the men's Italian championship, a most unlikely winner and a super exciting finish. So that's where we're starting this segment, really the only place we could start this segment. Justin, please join me in welcoming the SWAT Club to top tier European cycling. Their champion on championship day, Filippo Conca, however, needs no such welcome. He raced for both Lotto Sudal and Q36.5 over the past 4 years, and only this year dropped down a couple of levels to a club team and now Elettricolore. Pretty incredible, huh?
So, you like if you lived in Italy, you could join this club. Like it's like that.
Yeah,
Like it
I
is
was
a
on the
club.
website.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So what's wild is there's no sponsors on his jersey. It is SWAT Club, all white. All right. That is it.
The look, oh my god, don't get me started on the look.
Crazy.
It's just like generic.
Yeah,
Like
like no
unreal.
color at all. Like we're gonna go white for this, like in our leotard. Okay,
It's
sounds
like
like it.
white on white on white on white, like
Yeah,
white
with
helmet.
this.
It's like
By the
SWAT
way,
Club is written in gold.
they could have made that logo any bigger. Like it is the smallest logo you've ever seen.
It's so great.
But you know, I think this is one of those things that and maybe this plays into what we were talking about earlier, that these races aren't big marquee races, so they aren't, you know what I mean. They are at their they're at the mercy of whatever whoever organizes it or however it's organized. So because it's not like it is a formal grand
World
tour
tour,
race or
world tour race.
world tour race. Thank you.
Yeah, it's like
Um,
this picks up right off of what we were saying in the last segment about how it's like they're smaller races. They're not as consequential. They don't have as many points, but there are certain things about them that make them so special. Like we were talking about with like the team jerseys and stuff. Another thing that makes it special is because it's the Italian national championship, and they don't have like a ton of top level Italian pros out there. I mean, yeah, there's 10 of them or something. There's 12 of them, but there's not enough to make up a big ass peloton and make up a bike race. Well, yeah, so they're going to invite all these club teams. And what's so unique about it is it's like there's never going to be a situation where like some club team was able to slip in and play against the Kansas City Chiefs in Arrowhead Stadium. Like
no,
that's not going to
no,
happen.
not at all.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like, but in pro cycling, you can have a guy that's just like, you know, works in a law office during the day, and in that, no, not that level. I mean, but
But it's
you get
pretty
my
damn
drift.
close. Like I mean,
It's close.
it's pretty close to being that. Um, do you know what was up with his gesture at the end? So originally they had, it was like he did it was like he was doing this, but it wasn't clear why he was holding up
Mhm.
the. I don't. They don't like. It was unclear if it was a peace sign, if it was a two, if it was, and
Well, I think Jez Cox thought he was doing like this thing, like like look into my eyes, or like I see you, or
Oh,
something like that.
see,
He didn't say that. He did not say that, but I think that's what he was getting at, because the other whoever the other guy was that was calling the race fully saw it as like a number two.
right. That
But
was how she interpreted it exactly.
mhm, mhm.
So, but it was a very interesting race, and Chapo to Filippo, because you know what a way to come up huge in such a spot like that, and where nobody would expect it of you, and take it away from and be like, how cool is that, man? Like his club team and some small races, he's gonna have the jersey on, all
It's
year, and
crazy.
it
It's
probably
absolutely crazy.
it probably gets his team invited to a couple races too, just because of
Yes,
it.
yes. Like, it's going to be such a massive thing for that team. And also, speaking of the team, like, let's not forget they had two riders in that last group, and Konka was up in the front, and it was only with like 1.5K to go that his teammate bridges up to him and is able to get in there and make a difference in the end and kind of lead it out a little bit. I mean, that was just amazing,
Yeah,
absolutely amazing, and
it
it's
really was.
crazy to think that this guy was on these two much, like, higher level teams. I mean, Q36 wasn't, like, World Tour, but they were, like, the one step below or whatever,
Hmm.
but, um but Lado Sudal was, and, like, he was so he's already been at that level, and it's only after he dropped, like, the irony, you know what I mean? Like, after he drops out to a club level team, then he gets the big win. Absolutely crazy.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to France, because I really enjoyed this race. I don't really know anything about Dorian Godin. Really, I don't.
He he won, I think they said he won, like, Brabantse Pijl, maybe?
Yeah, I thought it wasn't like his first win, but like, holy shit, what a race, man! Like, there were so many, like, I felt like there were so many different lead changes. I was super pulling for Nicolas Prudhomme and for Kevin Vauquelin, because I like both of those guys, and but it was like such a good back and forth for this race. Obviously, wearing the French jersey, as a French rider is a huge honor. I mean, it is, obviously the epicenter of cycling in the world. So, these guys were going hot and hard at it. And I, I just felt like the way that it kind of all came together with this race was really exciting. Like, there was a lot more excitement, I felt like, in this race, in this ending, than in a lot of the other racing that I had watched over the weekend.
Oh, yeah, I mean, first of all, let's talk about the group. I mean, basically, it came down to a group of, like, every big, young French name in the pro peloton. I mean, it was like,
The new guy, Paul Cesas,
Seychelles. So it
Seychelles.
was Madouas, it was Kevin Vauquelin, it was Paul Seychelles, Romain Gregoire, Axel Laurence from Ineos, Rudy Mollard, Paul Magnier, Julian Bernard, Nico Prudhomme, Paul Lapira, um, Decathlon, uh,
They had
the
three
winning
riders.
team. They had four guys in it. Four guys. They had Prudhomme, Seychelles, Lapera, and
Well, they
the
had
winner,
three,
Guillaume.
like, riding, like, at the end. Like, I mean, there was like three of their riders were
Right. Well,
in
they
the
had they,
mix.
they had three at the end after LaPera had put in that, like, long range attack that almost kind of looked like it was going to work there. I mean, for a while there, he got up to
He was
he
out
got up
for a while.
to 20 something seconds of a gap on him. And then he just kind of, like, fizzled out, but he was able to set up the other three going into the finish. I mean, it's really strong representation. What I really loved, though, was how that sprint played out. Especially from the overhead shot. Do you recall how it kind of played out?
Refresh my memory.
Okay, so
Sorry,
you had
I've watched a lot of different things.
so in the end, it was Nico Prudhomme and Godin left for Decathlon. Prudhomme was in front. He was on the front end of the race. and he starts pulling really hard and actually starts getting some separation from everybody. The next guy back is Godon, and it almost seemed like because of the way the road was curving and where Godon was and how big of a guy he was, that he slowed up to kind of get in the way of Vocalant trying to come around and get on Prudhomme's wheel. And I'm watching it. I'm like, oh, this is great. He's like blocking everybody out just to give Nico that extra second or two that he needs to get far enough ahead that they're not going to catch him. And I'm thinking, this is great tactics from them. Well, what you realize in the end is that wasn't it at all. It was much more conventional. Nico Prudhomme was just leading Godon out, and Godon was keeping himself in position by kind of blocking those other guys out. He was basically just making sure that he was still right behind Prudhomme. And then all of a sudden, like, Prudhomme just like fizzled, just disappeared off the front. And just as he was disappearing, Godon had saw the guy that was on his left. I can't remember who the dude was that came in second. And went with him and was able to win that sprint. Perfect execution from that team.
Yeah, no, they did a really good job that day because they pretty much dominated that race.
And then Godon gives the salute. He hits this number right here. Have we seen this one before? No, we have not.
Never seen that. I didn't even.
They asked him about it. They asked him about it in the post-race interview. And they were like, so what's up with the salute? Because he literally like did this when he came across the line. And he's got this big ass like blonde mustache. He goes, nothing. It's like, I'm really into my mustache. So I thought I'd like just remind everybody about who my mustache is. I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. Yeah. It was funny.
No, that's awesome. That's awesome.
I'm enjoying seeing this guy Seychelles like in the mix. Because he's a super young guy that they're talking about, like he could be the second,
the great French hope.
Yeah. So anyways, you know what? Let's do Spain. Did you watch Spain?
Yeah, Yvon Romeo. another great win for Yvon Romeo.
Yeah, we can get through this one quickly because the coverage of this race was garbage. Like, I don't know what is going on in Spain, but what a mess. There was like 10-minute blocks of time where they're doing nothing but like showing replays. They had no footage to show. So they're just like showing.
And they were like just dropping in interviews out of nowhere. They were just dropping like rider interviews because they didn't have any aerial coverage, and then so they only had the motorbike coverage, and it was not good.
Yeah, it was trash. And I mean, like at one point Romeo was ahead with like 2 or 3 other guys, and then like there was like 12 minutes of this bullshit like showing replays and stuff like that, and then when they came back he was just like miles ahead. Like he was gone and was not going to be caught. Like there was nothing at all exciting about watching that race. So,
I felt bad for the commentary team because they were like trying to like do their best, and it seemed like every time they would like get onto a thing where they were like, oh well, we'll go over some of the winners of some of the other races, and then there's an interview and they're like, well, I guess we're not doing that because there's a fucking interview. Oh my God. No communication with them at all. So it's like you can tell that this is a race where they're just watching a raw feed, and if there ain't shit on that feed, there ain't shit for them to talk about.
Yep. That was a hot mess. Hey, at least there was two of them. It wasn't one poor person by themselves just getting interrupted by the broadcast. What a nightmare. Oh well. All right. Well, that's enough about that. Yvon Romeo from Movistar. Movistar's got the jersey that will make this very Spanish Movistar team very happy. We will leave it.
They pulled off both national championships.
Yeah, that's true. Movistar did nail both national championships. So, hey, good on them. We will be talking about their win on the women's side when we get to the team bus wager, as well as Belgium, and I'd like to get into some England talk as well. All that's going to be in the team bus dropping into your feed later this week. Stick around because when we get back, we're talking classic French animated movies.
Don't miss the Team Bus, our weekly companion podcast to the main Beyond the Slipstream show. Our domestique, if you will, dropping every Wednesday in your usual podcast feed.
Please note this segment will contain spoilers. If you have not watched the movie and wish to remain unspoiled, please wait to listen until you've had a chance to catch up. The Triplets of Belleville is a 2003 animated French feature film from director Sylvain Chomet. Its plot involves a Tour de France cyclist named Champion and his erstwhile grandmother, Madame Souza, who is on a quest to rescue Champion from gangsters who have kidnapped him and taken him to Belleville, the movie's stand-in for Paris, as well as New York City, Montreal, and Quebec City, to be used in a gambling operation. This movie is pure heroin for me for any number of reasons, not least of which is just the Frenchness of it all. The unique and delightful animation style with its exaggerated scale and whimsical fine line and watercolor aesthetic just sends me over the moon. But it's the iconography of France that is the thing that gets its hooks into me the deepest here. It's no less a factor in my love for the Tour de France, as well as such fantastic films and personal all-time favorites as Ratatouille and Amélie. I'm an unabashed Francophile, and this film hits me right in my brie cheese soft spot. So, Justin, where would you put yourself on the Francophile scale from 1 to 10? And if that's a low number, were you able to find other stuff in this film to enjoy?
Um, I doubt that I'm as much of a Francophile as you are. I love Amelie. I think it's probably one of the best for me foreign films that I've ever seen. I can remember watching it originally and just being mesmerized by it. But I am not gonna lie. Like I didn't know. I had zero like knowledge of this movie, of its premise, of its plot, of anything going into it. And my very first note is, what the fuck am I watching? It's like
It starts in such a bizarre way. It really does.
that scene, like, but once it plays out, like obviously the opening scene is of the triplets and doing the song that kind of is the triplets song.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like this very wild animation. It's very different in tone to the rest of the movie. So like you get this first opening with the song and the dancers and the exaggerated Catman Crothers like host guy, and you've got like there's a lot going on in that like opening scene.
It breaks to that Josephine Baker character.
Yeah. And but then it like rolls out to that like that television shot like of it being in the like the little tiny TV, which then brings you kind of into the rest of kind of the way that the real story is going to unfold.
Yeah, the actual world of the story. Yeah.
Right. And it's a stark contrast to that opening. It's very bleak, it's very dark, it's it's very, to me it's very interesting, and I thought it was cool how his grandmother was like trying to like figure out a way to connect with him. And when she finds his little cycling stash and gets him that tricycle, it's like it's this very heartwarming moment. And then you have the scene where let's see, hold on. Oh, I said at one point I have a note here, so there's a couple things. My dogs hated his dog. Like my dogs were growling at his dog. The putting the train like almost through the house Like I can feel that, like the sprawl of, Paris. Like you could just really feel like how that's something that I guarantee happened in the French countryside when they were putting in these
Probably.
railways.
Probably. Well,
But
if
then,
you think to Amelie, when she goes out to visit her father, he's like living underneath that like giant like train bridge. You know what I
yes,
mean?
yes. So then I put a note and I said he must be at work. Where's grandma? And then I realize, oh wait, that's not what's going on, because when you finally get to him on the bike, okay, you realize like that the bell ringing, that's grandma. That's grandma behind him, like training him. And I'm
Right.
like,
Right.
yes, what's going, I was like, grandma's like, grandma's being what great grandmas, do, and being supportive, and you know, she is helping him chase this obvious dream that he's had since childhood, and she's there to, you know, coach him and then eventually ride in the broom wagon, the literal broom
Yeah.
wagon.
Yeah. I mean, her indomitable spirit and love of her grandson, her boundless love for the grandson is just like one of the like sweetest parts of that whole movie is like she is never say die and the dog is along for the ride. And there's just a thousand amazing little details
The
in that
massage,
thing. Yeah, the massage. How about just the fact that she's got like one leg longer than the other? She's got that little
that
shoe that
boot,
like
yeah, 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 yeah.
the
The
little
the
details
those
like
little
that are just
details are
so
crazy.
great.
Um, let's. So I have a couple of my notes. The massage is nuts, dude. Her truing the wheel with the Eiffel Tower, like, dude, that was crazy.
So great. And
Um,
it's like they got the routine. So you know they've done this. They've just been doing this for hundreds and hundred thousands of days
yeah.
that they've done this routine.
And then they pull out that record. Did you clock the cover of the record that they pull out to throw on like right after that scene?
I think so. Refresh my memory though. That's another
It's this
cool thing where they have
crazy
these like
like
little zoom in
woman
details.
with these gnarly teeth. It's like this holy thing, and it's like it's very like, whoa, what the fuck is that?
Mm, mm.
And then you right after that you get the first like adult look on him, like, or I guess it's really after that training thing, but his legs, dude, like how crazy are his legs, like
The
in
legs are just
comparison to the
incredible.
rest of his body, his legs are like this.
And that's what I like. I love the exaggerated scale that you get throughout this movie from the scale of his body where his like and all the cyclists they have these like tree trunk thighs that are just grossly out of proportion to everything else on their body, and then their their calves are like a stick, two like muscles hanging off the middle of it. You know what I mean? They're
Right.
just so exaggerated. And then you look at the scale of like the cities, and they've got these impossibly tall buildings. Did you notice some of the buildings, like the top of the building was like a wine bottle?
Yes.
And then and then you got that ship that Madame Souza is following in her little paddle boat,
Oh my
and that
god,
ship is
the
like
ship is so tall.
it's like coming. It's just so bizarre, but
Um,
just it just makes it so unique, you
did
know.
you understand the first time you watched it? Because I was completely lost by how he was like kidnapped from the race. I mean, obviously, like I understood that like they had the same car that she did, and like they were imitating, they were trying to imitate the broom wagon, and you know, but like I didn't understand any of that until finally you get the scene where he's like where you see them on the bike, in front of the movie screen, and it's obviously some sort of like mechanical gambling, bike race art, piece thing that they're doing. And I was like, that part of it was like, to me, I kind of wish they had fleshed out that the plot of it a little bit better. I mean, maybe it's good that it wasn't fleshed out, but like I
I
felt
think it's really good that it wasn't fleshed out, that like they just trickled that stuff out to you. Like it was very mysterious. Like I thought that was one of the things. It's like, where are they going with this? What is going on with this? But like to me, it kept my attention. And then when you finally find out what's going on, I mean, it's not what you're expecting, and it's also completely just bizarre.
how
And
about
then the
when they
way,
how about when they shoot the guy?
mm,
The guy that like hits the wall.
right.
Yeah, comes down off the bike and they're just like take him out. That was crazy.
Well, it's really cool too how this apparatus that they've built that's going to be this like engine of torture for these three poor guys that have been kidnapped ends up becoming like their sailing ship to salvation. You know, it's like the screen ends up becoming like the sail,
Yeah.
and they're back there pedaling away, and it's like I don't know, it's just so ingenious. And speaking of ingenious, um, the fact that it opened the way that it opens with the Triplets of Belleville doing their song, and then out of nowhere, they actually emerge as characters, and they're almost like the magical like saviors of the movie, you know,
All right.
and that whole relationship that they just immediately have with Madame Souza, like just
The
it's so
whole thing
wonderful.
with the whole triplets like scene with the grenade fishing or where the grenade frogging, whatever you want to call that, where she just hucks a grenade in there and like pulls out all these frogs that would definitely be dead, like, but they were still living, and then like
Mhm,
the
mhm.
frog soup and the tadpoles, and it's like, and like there's that great scene early on where like he's eating and he's on a scale, okay, and like when he gets to the certain thing, he like it like bing
Incredible.
and he's done and he puts the bowl down and that's what the dog's waiting for, and the dog gets a bowl of the frog shit and he's like, I ain't eating this fucking crap. Like, what is
Mhm.
this? You know what I mean? And like, even Madame Sousa's like, it's like, and she's hungry because she hasn't eaten, she has no money. So there's that whole layer of what was going on. But then they like took her right in, and she started playing the wheel like a banjo almost, and you know, the one lady's like playing the fridge, like she tried to put something in the fridge, like no. You're like, what the fuck is this about? And then you realize later on, oh, that's her instrument. She's playing the rack inside of the fridge.
Right. And the sound was exactly like you would expect that sound to be. I mean,
Yeah, yeah,
it
yeah.
was just a really well-made movie. There's a ton to sink your teeth into in terms of the plot. You know, there's a lot of mystery there. It's got a really magical like look to the animation. Um,
And
I feel
basically
like
no dialogue.
that's the other point I wanted to make. So I was, where did you watch it, by the way?
YouTube.
Right. So I watched it on the
Free with
pirate
ads.
movie. I watched it on the pirate movie station, but um, the closed captioning was messed up, and so I was able to put on the English subtitles, but the subtitle would come up like 15 seconds after the person actually said the word,
Yeah, I watched it.
and
I watched it as intended with no subtitles.
didn't need them. That's my whole point.
Nope,
You didn't
not
need
at all.
subtitles. That's another great thing about this movie is it's true visual storytelling. And yeah, it's like the the words that you hear in there are almost like set dressing. You know what I mean? Because
And
you
there
know
also
what's
like a
going
there's
on.
also like a mismatch of like French and English, and it's like it wasn't all
Mhm,
just French.
mhm,
There
mhm.
was like definitely like a hodgepodge of different languages in there, and as my wife said, her favorite character was the dog. The dog probably has more lines than anybody, more
Probably.
dialogue anyway. Just can't understand
Yeah.
what he's trying to say, but I thought like one of my favorite like things that I kind of was like, oh, that's so cute, was this poor fat dog laying on the floor, and like as soon as the quarter hour comes, he's like, gotta go upstairs. And he
Gotta bark
trots
at
his
the
fat
train.
ass up there, and to bark at the friggin' train. You know what I mean? And then when they get to New York or Belleville, he barks at the train. He
Right,
barks at
right.
the
He finds
subway.
himself in the same situation. Well, and also, I would like to give them props for the fact that the only character that got a dream sequence in black and white was the dog, which is awesome. So, we're gonna cap it there. But I really appreciate you being a good sport and watching this movie. I could see this thing for myself becoming like a annual ritual when Tour de France rolls around. Like I could throw this on every year and just like kind of soak in more details and stuff like that. Because I feel like I'd see and catch more things. I mean, you pointed out 3 or 4 things in this conversation that like completely sailed past me. So um, that's the Triplets of Belleville. Check it out if you have the chance, and we will be right back with another ride in the Broom Wagon. Stay with us. All right, we are back, and it's time for another ride in the Broom Wagon. Justin, what have you got?
So for my broom wagon topic this week, I wanted to bring up something that I did this week that was really super cool and a little off the wall. So one of the things that has become like a passion thing for me, like and especially for like blowing off steam, is my kids got me into playing video games a couple of years ago, and I through that I ended up meeting a streamer named Big Head Lindo. His name's Carlin. His real name's Carlindo. From New York, and becoming friends with him, and becoming really really good friends with some other people that are kind of part of his community. And I've made some just really some really 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 great connections via playing video games with these guys, especially Grand Theft Auto. And over on Friday, he did a an event that was where he got other GTA content creators, like people that do videos on YouTube and Instagram and TikTok, and invited them to come into his world and use his people as the police, but like let all of these other people kind of come in and just wreak havoc on the city. And it was one of the wildest, most fun things that I've done in a hot minute. And it was this it was like instantly like chaos. Like it was wild. And because it was people that we're not used to playing with, and people that came in with their own kind of plans of like the things they wanted to do. Like we kind of had like a loose, we're this, you're that type of situation, but otherwise everything kind of unfolds in the moment. And I ended up recording like 3.5 hours of gameplay, a lot longer than I thought I would, but I like came home from work and pretty much immediately jumped on. And it was just this wild thing where all these different things are going on all at once. It's very chaotic, but one of the things that I really enjoy about playing with these guys is I record my gameplay, and then I like to edit videos. That's like a passion thing of mine. Is I really enjoy editing videos and kind of doing different things with video, and it allows me a lot of footage of very wild things that I would never be able to obviously record in real life, and allows me to then go and be creative with with that medium. And it wasn't just me in this moment, and it's all of these people that like all they do is this type of content and do video editing. So on Friday night, we all have this big long 4 hour gaming session, and all these wild things happen. But then the next day, like social media just starts blowing up as people start editing and dropping these different videos and little vignettes of, the stuff that happened. And it was so cool to me to see all these different people using the same essential medium, but putting their own creative spin on it. And it was just this really, really, wild, um, fun thing. And, ended up meeting another guy that makes content because, him and I ended up doing a couple of different things together. And, it was just, man, it was just so different. And I've never, like, I'm always into things that are like creatively based. Like I love when people are being creative. And, you know, there are a lot of people in this world that, would look at this and be like, that's a waste of time. And there's not nothing creative about it. And it's like, creativity is really a perspective, more than anything. And, just because it's a video game or just because it's Minecraft, or if it's, Legos or whatever, creativity is in the hands of the beholder. And, it was just such a neat, you know, Friday night. You know what I mean? It was such a weird Friday night where you just didn't every 5 minutes something crazy was happening. You know what I mean? There's this one video where I'm just flabbergasted because I'm like, a car just tried to drive into a moving plane, and I'm like, what? And like you hear me like reacting to it on this video, and it's funny going back and like listening to it, and it's like it's real exasperation. Like I'm like, I don't know what's about to happen. Like, a lot of times when I'm playing with my friends, like I know what's going to happen, or we're planning something or whatever. And in this, in these moments, it was complete and utter, you know, flying by the seat of your pants. And it was so much fun. And so if you get a chance, you can check out my Instagram, the real Harperama, and my friend, at Big Head Lindo. So if you're interested in seeing any of this content, please feel free to step in and step into my other world and share a little bit of time with me.
Nice, nice. Yeah, that sounds cool. For my broom wagon today, I'm just gonna keep it pretty pedestrian and recommend a film I just watched on HBO Max. Documentary film just dropped. It's called My Mom Jane, and it's directed by Mariska Hargitay. She of
I just watched this the other day.
Detective Olivia Benson from Law and Order SVU. Um, she is the daughter of Jane Mansfield, the like pinup like blonde bombshell that was sort of like the other Marilyn Monroe. Um,
I did not know that. That's her daughter.
yes, and this story is absolutely fascinating. She was 3 years old when Jane Mansfield died in a car accident. Her and two of her two older brothers, I believe, were in the backseat of the car, and like mom died, they lived. Um, it's it's one part Mariska Hargitay reclaiming the Jane Mansfield story on behalf of her mother and showing the world that like her mom was a lot more than what our collective memory thinks she was. And that's a beautiful sort of thing that she did, for her mom and her mom's memory and her mom's legacy. But there's a whole bunch of other stuff in this movie, and I don't want to spoil anything, but I'll just say that as a father, seeing this film really like hit me with a gut punch, um, because as much as this film sort of demonstrates a daughter's love for her mother and the fact that she, wanted to dig into this story so that her mom could be, given the proper elevation, the proper retrospective that she so richly deserved. Um, it is also a story about a father's love for their child. That's all I'll say about that, because I don't want to spoil it. But I pretty much had tears streaming down my face for like the last like 20 plus minutes of this movie. Like it was really, really like an incredible story, absolutely incredible story. And I just listened to Mark Maron interview Mariska Hargitay. Um, on his show, obviously because this movie's coming out and she's doing promotion and stuff like that. And I can really tell, was as completely struck by this movie as I was. It was very validating listening to him talk to her about it, because it's a hell of a thing. She's a pretty good filmmaker. I know she did one other. I think she did a documentary about the like insane backlog of rape kits that are existing like in sheriff's departments and police departments around the country. That's obviously a big subject that, comes onto Law and Order SVU, iconic character she's played for 25 odd years or whatever. But yeah, she's got a way with documentary, and this is a fantastic film. So a big recommendation for it. My Mom Jane, now appearing on HBO Max.
I will definitely be watching that.
Yeah, super cool film, and a very interesting story. That is all for this week. Join us next week for our full Tour de France preview show, dropping a little early. We're going to have that feed on Friday morning, which is the first day of the Tour de France. Until then, for my brother Justin, I'm Matt Harper. Thanks for listening. We hope you'll join us again soon on another ride beyond the slipstream. Ale!
Beyond the Slipstream is a production of Harperama. Find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Please like and subscribe, smash that button, leave a 5-star review, and most importantly, tell all your friends about us. Thanks for listening. Talk to you next time. Ale!